Welcome to the Injectors Business Blueprint, the show that helps you build a profitable and thriving med spa practice. Here, we don't just talk about overcoming med spa growth challenges, we equip you with firsthand accounts of what we did to help ourselves and our clients build profitable and sustainable practices they love. The next step in building a practice you love starts right now.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Injector Business Blueprint podcast. I'm here with my industry bestie, Erin. Hi, Erin.
Hello. Happy New Year.
Happy everything, right? It's mid-January at this point, but I feel like it's been a minute since we have recorded a podcast, and that's because it has been. We've been a little bit busy, huh?
Yeah, I feel like this first 15 days into the new year has really only felt like 1 week, because I feel like this year specifically, not sure why, everyone's dragging ass trying to get into a new year, getting into the swing of things. And I've had or seen so many people actually taking vacation in the first week of January, which I love to see. So I feel like right now people are just getting back in their schedule, getting used to everything, which also includes us, right? It's like
100%.
we took some time to just, slowly slide into January. So here we are.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that 1 week where we lost Thanksgiving, at least in the US, like it was like we jumped right into the holidays, and then Christmas was here, New Year's, all the things. And
it's like rolling, just like like down a hill like a snowball, like just into the new year. And here we are. I feel like everyone like kind of crashed and was like, okay, shit.
Absolutely.
We're here. Right? Like 100%. We gotta do something about this.
Yeah. A ton of stuff has changed, at least for me in my job role. So I can't really say I took too much time off, but I did take a few moments to relax here and there.
Which is so timely, because I think the thing that people are craving so much, and at least I've seen this in my DMs since the beginning of January, and the shift of what's going on with you, like everyone is looking for, what is my new direction? Or with a new year, like I want a new year, it is a new year, but I don't want to do the same thing as last year. I want to have a different plan. I want it to go in a different direction, or I want it to go a different way, but don't necessarily know how to do that. And I think it's timely, right? You've got a brand new venture. This year will be absolutely different for you from last year. My year this year is going to be absolutely different from last year. And it feels like for a lot of the folks we work with and clients that we have, it's going to be the same thing.
Absolutely. I mean, if you guys haven't figured it out yet, I am opening up my own med spa. I can't believe I'm even saying that. In my hometown in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. And this idea has been in my head for a couple months, but it was really organic because a lot of things had to come together to even remotely make this make sense. I wanted to start small and kind of build a brand around my friend who had such good energy around getting into the industry for the right reasons, not just to make a quick buck. And I thought, you know what, instead of, I saw her, do what she needed to do. She was taking the right steps to build her own resume, but she just wasn't getting anywhere. And I saw an opportunity within my dental practice to open up a very small studio in one room and just start with some basic things like talks and microneedling. So that's the short version of it. But I have decided to relinquish my practice management role and now do this full time as a practice owner. So I get to wear all the hats, and let's not get it
twisted. You're still going to be doing all the things you did before, but now you're in the treatment room and behind the desk and behind the computer and wearing all the hats.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, to add to the confusion too, I mean, I am a registered nurse and I did inject, but I didn't really make it known for a number of years just because I put practice management and more of the business mindset at the forefront. So it's going to be a very interesting year doing all the things. But I have a great team. I have a great medical director, a legal team, all the things. So I'm super excited to kind of dive into our intention for today. And that's really just to talk about, how we're setting up this year to be more successful.
Yeah, I love that. And congratulations. That is not easy. And just before we were discussing, like how much, aside from the effort, the energy, the attention, the mental calories you burn going through all the things, it's like also the financial commitment when you make a big change.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot, right? And
Yes.
so, you know, looking at a new year, and lots of people are DMing like, oh my gosh, I want to work with you this year, or this year is my year. But my question is, yeah, it's a new year because the date changed.
Mm-hmm.
But what are you actually changing about the way you operate, the way you think, the way you move, where your attention goes? It's not going to be a new year if you don't have new habits or new discipline,
Right.
right?
No,
And
100%.
what are we helping our audience with now going into a new year? How are we helping set up for success? So what are some of the things that you're going to do, Brandon, as you look to one, shifting roles? You're shifting your daily role. But
Mm-hmm.
what does that look like now? Or what are some of the things that you did as a practice manager that you're going to apply as a practice owner and manager, and now like team lead, team development, client experience, all the things?
I'm like, wait, I should probably add a few more things to my list over here.
No, that's just the client facing version of it. It's like, yeah, you're
Right?
still the bookkeeper and the accountant. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm not. I hire that stuff out. That I do know. I'm trying to really start with people first, right? Like I understand the business of aesthetics. I think to a more proficient degree than most. So I know all of that. It's more about building the team and not getting too big too fast, in my opinion. I really focused a lot on, at least initially, making sure that they are trained and making sure that everyone is very transparent about communication and understanding their roles and responsibilities, because I think that's one thing that can slowly slide down, especially as you get into the year. We're getting into a new year. It's probably a little bit slow right now, or initially busy because people have been pent up since the holidays and you may have been closed for a little bit. But fortunately, we're starting with a clean slate and my girls don't have books. So, I'm in a fortunately unfortunate position because I don't have a ton of people knocking on my door just yet. But this allows me an opportunity to do some team building, to really look at all of the policies and procedures and take that time to effectively build them out, to make sure that they understand all of the technology. We literally did a 6-hour orientation the other day and they're like, what are we doing? I'm like, literally, we're sitting in this conference room. We're logging into all the apps. We're going to understand how they work. We're going to, start to look at our EMR, things like that. And it's stuff that like you just continue to build on. But I feel like that foundation can get lost in the shuffle and the thick of just the day to day. So I wanted to make sure that I started off with that right off the bat. And actually, before that, I did a team kickoff dinner, and I had the whole entire team just meet each other because not everyone had the opportunity to meet. And there were some other ancillary people that I wanted there that kind of like support my medical director. So I really wanted to have like just an engaging dinner that was more of like a state of the union, not so much like an education. I'm like, I'm going to get really dorky with the PowerPoint for 1 minute, and then we'll go ahead and eat and just have some laughs, share about our kids, get to know each other, because we're going to be working together. So that was one thing I really wanted to do. And I'm glad that I had the opportunity to do that kind of before we jump into the thick of it.
So it sounds like, and like I can't help it, like it's the coach in me. It's like laying the foundation for expectation around meetings and accountability, because I find a lot of people struggle with that, right? If you like, you're doing it right in the sense of at the very beginning from jump, you're making it very clear that communication is most likely a principle or a value system that you have inside of your practice. that you don't shy away from communicating, you don't shy away from meetings, you don't only have meetings if there's, if shit's hitting the fan. So I think that's an important one to take away. Whenever I'm coaching someone who is having a lot of issues with staff or staff performance or, pent up feelings and thoughts in and around their role or the business or how they contribute, usually it comes to a head at the end of the year or during a performance review when that can be completely avoided. Not to mention, if you've got big, lofty goals for the year, you have to talk to your team on a regular basis. You have to have meetings. You have to, lean in all together so that you know how each person's contributing and things like that. So I love that you did that. But I also really love that you kind of got everyone together and you're like, listen, we're going to spend the majority of our days together. And I put it in PowerPoint. So, don't make fun of me, but it sounds like you went through some strategic direction, principles, values. Like, I know it sounds so lame. I can't say it enough though, around vision and mission, because people, for the most part, and I've seen this in my leadership career over the years, is like people need to feel like they have a sense of belonging, that what they do matters, that there's impact, and that they really feel like on a soul level that they're contributing in a positive way. And especially in our industry, of course, there's like a ton of money to be made. But most people, after a certain point, and you've probably seen this, after a certain point, like money isn't the benchmark of success anymore. It's like, okay, yes, I know how to get the money. I know how to get a certain amount of money and I'm slowly always increasing, but it has to feel good. So I love that you did that with your team, that you kind of laid out right away. They're like, this is what we stand for. This is where we're going. And this is why it's so important. Or like, this is the ethos of this business. So I love that, because I think too many owners or even the practice manager skate over it, right? It's like, oh, it's in our manual. Go, you're onboarding someone's like, go read the manual, right? But having the owner actually like talk from the heart and invite you to dinner and sit down and learn about your family and learn what motivates you. That's so important. So I think those are two really big, like, launching pads to create success this year.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel passionate about it because like I'm learning to never say never, right? I always thought like I'll never open up my own place, but I also never thought I would run a full marathon. And I did that in 2018. So, circling back to like our topic, setting up success is going to look I feel like I've already been successful with the start of this company, right? So anything that is above and beyond where we're at now is icing on the cake for me, quite honestly. I'm very grateful for whatever happens. I'm just going to continue to do the next right thing, and we'll see what happens. But I have a lot of strategic marketing plans and efforts in motion to kind of help spread the word. But, I think that everything is going to be new for me this year. So I think this is going to be a very interesting conversation in a year when we have it to see, what I've learned and what I haven't learned yet. So, I think that trying to put some of these things, and I know we were chatting a little bit before this, it's not just all marketing, right? It's not like I'm going to change my Canva templates and they're going to change my life. There's so much more to what needs to be done to help drive your business forward, whether that's new patients, new procedures, new pricing strategy, new staff. There's so many things that you can optimize going into the new year.
Yeah, I agree. And I know one of the last podcasts that we did at the end of 24, we really talked about, looking at the performance and quantifying success and what are the contributing factors. And obviously that's carrying forward. And again, I just go back to like so many people who are like, yeah, new year, new me. But it's like, no, it's going to be same year, same you if you don't change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And looking at performance and what were some of those trends that you want to repeat and how did that look last year? So I think when we look at marketing or strategy or, business planning going into the new year, what you have to a certain degree, look back and go, what really worked well? what didn't, what got us ROI, or what made the team extremely happy, or what trends did we see in our business. And I don't mean trends in the industry. I mean, where were our numbers trending? Where were
Mhm.
our clients buying? What were they buying and how much of it? And those kinds of things. So you mentioned marketing, because I know that that's a big one for a lot of people. It's like, oh, this year
Mhm.
we're going to sink X amount of dollars, or we're going to change marketing companies. I think it's really important what you said around marketing is not
Mhm.
just like, it's not one dimensional. It has to deal with the patient experience. It has
Yep.
to deal with, you know, how is my team getting the word out? How am I telling my local community? How am I collaborating? How am I utilizing my network? Marketing isn't just about putting money into, an ad funnel that will hopefully bring more eyeballs. Of course, that does help depending
Mhm.
on strategy. But looking forward, as talk about your vision, your mission, your values with your team, you're laying out, communication, you're being open and transparent. Are you planning to have conversations around, or even just for yourself, maybe not even with your team just yet, but when you look at what does success look like in year one, do you look at not marketing as like a revenue generator, but do you set goals, like actual financial targets? Is there something that you're like, hey, we're striving to hit this? Or if obviously there's never just one goal. I always say, like,
Mhm.
don't just have like a numbers goal. You've got to have it like it has to be a few different layers in there. But when it comes to numbers, do you have it in your mind's eye of what you want to achieve or what you know might be possible in year one?
Honestly, no. I mean, I should probably have a number, but I honestly don't. It's really going to be a month to month basis. Like I know what I've spent so far, but to really engage with the community and educate, I feel like that's like my primary goal right now. So we'll see who comes in because of organic word of mouth referrals. I really think that that is very valuable. I'm not into the paid ad thing. But I'm still finding everyone's like kind of strength and weakness too, because although I have lived here for nearly all my life, I've spent the past 4 years traveling. So I'm really not in tune with my own market. And I know that probably sounds a little crazy, but like, I mean that in the sense of like, I have a feeling that Facebook is more popular than Instagram. TikTok
Mm,
is dead. Print ads may or may not be valuable. So it's going to take a little bit of finessing to figure out like what hits. But like also, my injectors are a little bit more savvy with Facebook, thank God. And, I've found a strength in one of my injector's daughters with social media. So there might be an opportunity to kind of integrate other people and different modalities into things that I really like. I really don't like Facebook. I tried the other day for like 2 hours to figure out how to check in at my location, and I was so mad I could not figure it out. And I think I screwed it up, so I don't even know. But I mean, I'm not putting a ton of pressure on the girls to really like bring in a certain amount. I have kind of goals as far as reevaluating. So, like in 3 months, we're going to look and see where we are. And then 3 months from that. So, I really want to keep those cycles shorter, especially the first year, because it's so tumultuous. And I also need to protect myself because I'm not using outside investment. I'm trying to bankroll this all on my own. So, I don't want to go too crazy, but I also need to make realistic expectations on both sides as far as what's expected as far as compensation and benefits. And in lieu of something like super financial right now, I'm trying to think of outside the box a little bit. So trying to do like more like team building events. Like let's do like a private Pilates class together or Starbucks, like a Starbucks allowance every month and a credit on file for services because they're all, excited to get the things done. So,
yeah.
reward them with some services in the interim. So, it's things like that that kind of surprise and delight more from a quality of life, work life balance thing versus, you must sell XYZ, or do this certain percentage or be this amount booked by, a certain date, because we're new and
Yeah.
there's going to be a big learning curve this year for sure.
Yeah. I feel like for most businesses anyway, everything should be test and measure, and you put it in like rinse and repeat
Mhm.
until you find out it works or it doesn't work, and how do we make it better, or how do we drop that thing. Hey, it's Erin here. We're just cutting in real quick to remind you, if you're finding value in today's episode, make sure to subscribe at injectorbusinessblueprint.com. Never miss an episode and get access to exclusive content and tools that we share only with our subscribers. All right, thanks for sticking with us. Now, let's dive back into the episode and keep building the practice you love. Again, when I look at what habits do successful people have, so obviously lots of communication, good cadence and rhythm to create expectation, have people opt in and show up. Performance in terms of metrics, what are we really looking for, or how are we measuring that? And year
Mhm.
one, you can measure that. And it's hard to measure because there is no history. So everything
Right.
is brand new. Um, but then there's the last component that I see with a lot of leaders, which is, how are you using your time? How are you running your schedule? And I know, again, Brandon, for you, this is like a whole different thing because you had such a like definitive calendar before where you knew exactly where you were going to be in 6 weeks time, who you were seeing and what you were working on. And so now being the owner, probably owner, lead provider, the marketer, the receptionist, like all the things kind of upfront, how, or not necessarily how, it doesn't have to be how, but what are some of the things that you're looking at in order to run the day instead of have the day run you when it comes to your calendar?
So, one thing that I do need to get in the practice of that I really enjoyed was time blocking, because I have terrible ADHD, and just picking a specific activity, not necessarily getting down to the finite details, but like working on like SOPs for an hour or working on marketing for an hour and literally just blocking out my entire calendar is the only thing that's going to keep me focused. Because right now, quite honestly, my day is running me, but it needs to right now. And I know it's like a short term struggle, but eventually we'll get into a marathon pace versus the sprint. So I know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We're getting there, but right now it is taking a lot of my energy. So, but I think time blocking is the most valuable thing for me, and that will help keep me on focus. One thing that I didn't necessarily plan on was kind of starting this as a full-time gig. So the hours were a little loosey-goosey. So I don't even know what hours we're going to be open just yet, because I don't know what's going to hit. So I'm going to have to be a little bit more hands-on and in clinic just to see what's going to hit initially, because I'm not really sure. So there's a lot of variables, but I mean, at least from an administrative standpoint, I can definitely organize my calendar and do that time blocking.
Yeah, I agree. Time blocking, I mean, like the most successful people on planet Earth time block, and they're in control of their calendar, right? When I
Mm-hmm.
work with owners or practice managers and they're like, yeah, we'll just wait and see how it goes. That's like, don't do
Mm-mm.
that, right? You have to decide that every month we're going to block this day for this amount of hours, and that's our inventory. Every month we have a monthly meeting around performance. Every month we have a monthly meeting around marketing initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's every morning from 8:45 until 9 we do a daily briefing to get everyone caught up on what we're focused on today. Blocking that calendar and taking control. Like I always say, like, what is the likelihood you're going to get to a destination if you're sitting in the passenger seat?
Mm-hmm. I
You
love
have
that.
to be in the driver's seat, right? And the driver's seat looks like I'm deciding, and for you, of course, at the very beginning, it's going to look like, yeah, let's test and measure when people book, the frequency of bookings, the hours and the days, so that we can then make the operation a bit more efficient. So there is a time where you're just measuring, where you're like, okay, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll adjust. It's when you don't make those adjustments, or you have that data history and you still just, you're open at all hours, you're not very efficient with your time, or you're just like sitting there hoping people will walk in. So Yeah, I would say time blocking is one of those things that 100% the most successful people, certainly that I work with, I mean, I do it myself. It's like, unless you want the day running you every day, all day, and that's how, you get overwhelmed because you're like, oh, I don't know where the time went. It's like because you didn't allot time
Yep. Yep.
versus I booked this time. I have very strict boundaries around, when I'm working, when I'm not working, what I'm working on, who has access to me, those kinds of things. I think that's another great one to take into the new year. That's like, if you were someone who lost time, time got away from you, it felt like you never had enough time, you can't make
Mm-hmm.
time, you actually can, right? You're in control. And if you own it, then own it, right? Be the
Mm-hmm.
owner, step into that leadership seat, take that driver's seat and time block. So I love
Yep.
that one. I love time blocking for you because it's going to be necessary as
Yeah,
things
it is.
come up, right? Because you can
Yeah.
easily get distracted. I know that.
Oh my God. I literally will. One day, I remember I was doing something and then somehow I was in my master closet organizing all my clothes. And I'm like, how did we get here? Like, and I know sometimes I need that distraction to walk away, but like I need to like really focus, especially on some of those more admin days and be structured because so many things come at me. And I know that every business owner feels that way, that just so many things come at you and everything seems like a priority, but it helps when you have a little bit more of a regimen.
100% agree. Well, I think that, leading into wrapping up this conversation, we've shared a few things that are really important, right? And again, I
Hmm.
just keep going back to these DMs that is like, oh, I want to work with you, or oh, I want this year to be different. If you want this year to be different, you have to actually do different. You have to be different, different
Hmm.
discipline, different habits, different focus. And I love that we touched on communication. I think if you had a lot of issues with staff, or there was tension, or maybe you were losing team members, or team members weren't really performing, it's most likely a communication thing. So I love that you've kicked off
Hmm.
with your team, having open communication, setting the tone that, like, hey, meetings and transparency in meetings and talking to each other, this is going to be important so that we set the expectation. You also mentioned about not necessarily having specific performance goals. Obviously, in year one, you have an idea, but you're going to test and measure and take the temperature every 3 months. So, checking in on
Hmm.
performance. So, that's another one. And creating a daily structure, right? Where you're running the day and the day doesn't run you. So, I think those are three great things that if you took anything away from this conversation, is like communication, looking out for the performance, right? You test and measure and you analyze, of course, and having structure, having that daily structure to know when you start work, when you end work, what you're working on, so you never feel like time is escaping you.
100%. Love it. Well, I think that's enough for today, kids. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Injector Business Blueprint. Until next time, we'll see you soon.
Bye. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Injectors Business Blueprint. We know your time is valuable and we appreciate you investing some of it with us. Comment, like, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts to continue the journey with us to push through those fears, doubts, and roadblocks to make the journey a little less lonely. So until next time, don't forget, you're blessed to be stressed.